Welcome to Codex, History of Video Games. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I'm Tyler Osby.
And today's a mailbag episode. It's
Mailbag.
It's our sixth one.
Sixth mailbag. Wow.
Wow, so many
Got
mails.
some emails.
So many bags of email, you know?
Yeah.
On our shelves. Okay.
Digital bag full of digital mail.
That's right. Our first email we're going to do, Shane had some questions. Remember Shane's questions?
Yeah.
That he had? We read those a couple episodes ago. And I think we should just do these questions right now. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
This is the second one. Your video game library is on fire. After you're done screaming, no, like Darth Vader at the end of Revenge of the Sith, you have time enough to save one console and one game to go with it. What do you choose and why?
All right. I got the cop-out answer. I saved my PC because it has all my PC games on it. And I don't have to save any single game. So, boom.
See, and my reason, I would let my PC burn because all of my stuff's saved in the cloud.
Oh, okay. So then, good luck getting a new PC right now with graphics cards.
I know, right? I'm gonna save my N64 because that's like my childhood console that I love deeply, and all my games with it.
Okay,
and I love it. That's my answer to that question. A bonus question, similar scenario as question 2, but this time you can pick any game ever made. The game you pick must be shared with the world because video games are going extinct. It's your job to bring this wondrous medium back from the brink. What game do you save to remind people of the before times before libraries spontaneously combusted?
Oh, jeez. I
know what your game is, I think. Can I guess your game? Is it Ocarina of Time?
Yeah, it's right up there. I mean, that's... We're trying to remind people of the before times of how great video games are. That one's right up there.
I'm thinking, I'm leaning Breath of the Wild.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because it's newer. It's, still showing you, the fun of Zelda and exploration and, Zelda games, because we both are big Zelda fanboys. We don't hide that on this show, I think. They do just such a good job of, introing new concepts and then having you use those concepts in fun ways. And I think that's what, to me, makes video games so fun, is it tells a story, but the gameplay is also really engaging and fun. It makes you think. So that's Breath of the Wild for me is the one I'm going to pick.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that's a very good choice. I mean, you could also do something like Tetris or Pac-Man or
Yeah, I was thinking Super Mario World because that's a great game. But if I had to pick one, and I want to pick a newer one, because what if there's people that aren't retro game fans? Because there are. Mm-hmm. You know?
That's true. Yeah.
But there's also people that are only retro game fans and hate new video games today, I'm sure.
Well, they don't need to be reminded of how great games are.
That's true. They're sitting in their rooms full of Nintendo games, just yelling into the void. So it's fine. All right. Shane says, keep up the great work, and as always, thank you. Spidey fannies, Shane. Thank you, Shane.
Spidey fannies.
Also, Spidey fannies. Do you want to do Will's email about hyped games?
Okay. So this is a little bit of a longer one from Will because he's got some examples here that I think are worth checking out. So Will says, good morning, Mike and Tyler. The discussion of hyped video games really got me thinking it would be cool to have an episode or episodes on games and the hype machines behind them, including those that lived up to it, those that disappointed, and those that never saw the light of day in the end. With that being said, what are some of the most hyped games you guys remember? I was too young / not alive for the Mario 64, FF7, and Sonic 2 anticipation. What I remember fondly are the following. Number 1, Twilight Princess. This is Will saying this, not Tyler. Twilight Princess. I was too young to be disappointed in the Wind Waker, so I really enjoyed it, but having gone back and beaten Ocarina, I always wondered what a next-generation Zelda would look like. I feel like Twilight Princess was the perfect storm because it combined the general fan desire for an adult Zelda with the unstoppable hype train of the Wii. It's hard for people to picture now, but before the Wii came out, I don't believe it was widely known that it would be underpowered and shoehorn motion controls into everything. The Wii was all anyone wanted to talk about in the cafeteria. It is maybe the most hyped console of my lifetime, and Zelda was the title everyone wanted. Wii Sports did not get marketed. Twilight Princess also came around the advent of YouTube. Dozens of recordings of the E3 trailer were remixed to music. I'm not sure we've seen much else like it, except, number 2, Halo 3. Another game that benefited from the pre-Google buyout YouTube. I remember beating Halo 2 and it being one of the few games to make me think, you cannot stop here! The cliffhanger felt like it lasted forever. The amount of Halo theory videos on YouTube were uncountable. My brother even had a finish the fight poster 2 years before this game came out. The delays just served to add to the mystique, and Halo 3 really lived up to the expectations in my opinion. It was the game for the 360 in the same way that its predecessors were for the no box. The Xbox.
I think we should always just call it Xbox no box. I think that works fine. Yeah.
Number 3, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Maybe because of my age, but I don't remember there being a ton of hype for Oblivion or Fallout 3. I don't think that many people played Morrowind or Fallout 2 on balance, but I know I spent countless hours in Fallout 3. Skyrim was billed as the perfect game, and I even had high school teachers who bought it for themselves. How crazy is that? It was the Western RPG Japanese critics had to respect. It seemed like Bethesda got better with each release in this time frame, and Skyrim is a clear step up from Oblivion and arguably Fallout 3. Hot take. I would say the hype for Elder Scrolls 6 might have surpassed this, but it's been so long now that I think gamers have repressed that feeling until they get something concrete. And number 4, Cyberpunk 2077. Has any one game been more disappointing relative to its hype? I have never played this game, nor was I that intrigued by the marketing machine, but I felt like it was worth a mention. They had Keanu Reeves, for Pete's sake. PlayStation removing it from its store is going to go down in history just in time for Ultimate History Volume 3. Let me know some of the big ones for you guys, and keep up the great work. Will, from somewhere that used to be farmland, but is now suburban sprawl as far as the eye can see. So sorry, Will, to hear that. So, Mike, what are your most hyped games that you remember?
Okay, I actually thought of one. And before my initial list, because Tyler and I both have Halo 2. We both remember the hype for that. There was so much hype for Halo 2.
I think it was more, well, maybe technically like money spent on Halo 3 was probably higher, but in terms of like me being caught up in the hype and like being in it, man, Halo 2 was just, and I didn't even have an Xbox at that point in time, and I was so stoked for Halo 2.
Me too. And that campaign is probably my favorite campaign, I think. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, that's my favorite campaign of Halo.
Love it.
But this is kind of, the two I thought of were kind of more like personal among my friends and I. So it felt really hyped because I grew up in Alaska. So I didn't really have a hype machine, to be honest. But elementary school, Pokemon Red and Blue, when they started going around, like this was not release hype. This was like just hype when they got to Alaska, essentially. Like every kid talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
Like the whole time. It was like talking about the glitch for the 90 like unlimited master balls, like all that stuff. And like, that was great. The other big one I thought of was college for me was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, that one was big. I remember being swept up in that hype.
Yeah, because Modern Warfare was just like a surprise to everybody. And then Black Ops was fun, but Modern Warfare 2 just was, the hype machine for that seemed really big. And speaking of failed hype machines, I think it was Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which had Marshawn Lynch and Kevin Spacey like as like their hype actors, and that one just did not. I mean, I'm sure people played it, but they were trying to be like Titanfall. It was kind of weird because Titanfall had just come out, and so they added like this boosting thing where you could boost from side to side, and it just didn't feel right for Call of Duty.
Yeah, there was like a period of time there where like Titanfall came out, and it was like almost like this false trend where it was like, oh shoot, we got to do this movement thing because Titanfall did it. Now that's the new thing. Every FPS has movement things, and it like really just ended up being only good in Titanfall, and no one else really did a good job with it, it seems.
And what's so funny too is like Titanfall 2 is a great game. Like the second one is one of the best campaigns I've played in so long.
I gotta play that still, and it's not very long.
It's not. It's a great campaign, and I believe you can find a used copy for pretty cheap too. It's a great one. But the other one I thought of, and that was a personal hype thing, and this was at the height of Rock Banddom, so I thought you would like this. Beatles Rock Band.
Oh yeah.
We had my friends and I mean, I don't know if this is like national hype, but we had in Pullman, Washington in college, we had some hype for Beatles Rock Band. We were stoked on it. And we got it the day of, and we just played it a bunch, and it was like super fun. So I remember that.
Yeah. I remember being super duper hyped for Pokemon Gold and Silver. So much so I remember I sent an email to Nintendo asking, I was like, what's the name of the protagonist? Like, what are some of the new Pokemon? And they sent back like a really nice email to me, not telling me anything at all, but it was like clear that they read my email and like were being very nice to a kid.
How old were you at the time?
I must have been 9 or 10, probably. That game came out in 2000. So
I wanted you to be like 23.
Yeah. I was 48 and I was just so hyped. So I sent Nintendo an email.
No, yeah, the big national ones I think for me are really Modern Warfare 2 is the big one, and then Pokemon Red and Blue when it hit my city, because it's like I feel like Pokemon Red and Blue was before the real marketing machine of video games, because this was like the mid 90s.
Yeah,
and so it like took a while to get to me. You know, but it was really cool when it did get there.
I also got really really hyped for the original Rock Band. And I there was like, because it was like kind of the height of the music game genre hadn't quite been reached. I say that's probably around Rock Band 2 or 3 is like where then it's like starts to fall off a cliff. But the first Rock Band like felt like such a natural progression from the Guitar Hero games, and they did such a good job with it. I was so stoked for that. And being a person who plays the drums, like Guitar Hero was always fun, but it wasn't. It was just a rhythm game on a guitar-shaped controller. But with Rock Band, I felt like I was actually playing the drums and actually got better at drums because of Rock Band. So I was like super stoked for that game.
I was 100% pro Rock Band over Guitar Hero.
Same.
Because I like to play with friends.
Yeah.
That was the thing for me. It was like a friend. My brother was on drums. I was on guitar. It was fun. It was real fun.
So fun. So fun.
That was a great one, Will. Thank you for that email.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Theodore says this. It says a little beef is the subject line. Hi, Mike. Hi, Tyler and Mike. Longtime listener. I have some beef with a statement you guys made, but would love to hear your thoughts. I used to get in arguments online way back when over the very subject of Xbox Live being better than PlayStation Network, as if it is some kind of fact. As a PlayStation supporter, never cared for Halo and always loved fighting games. Evo and the fighting community has long been on PlayStation. Also, I love God of War. Anyway, PlayStation Online was free, not laggy. I had a friends list and ways to message them. We could easily meet up in games and play together. Even way back when it was still miles ahead of where Nintendo is today, they had a decent store and in-game chat. That's so true. Nintendo is really
is still behind.
Nintendo's the real loser of online video gaming.
That is accurate.
Xbox Live, my roommate at the time had an HD and an Xbox, was just as stable as PSN with all the same features except that party chat feature, which, if you didn't have a Bluetooth headset, which I feel like I got one free in about every cereal box or combo meal at the time, I could see some use for it. It wasn't useless, but I don't see why I would play Call of Duty and not be in the chat with my group. If I'm experiencing a solo game, I don't want to hear my buddy hitting a bong in the background, so I personally couldn't find much use for it if you had a phone. Also, Xbox Live was never free. So, please, am I missing something? Why is it Xbox people always say Xbox Live is better hands down? Is it some kind of propaganda? Did some CEOs just say it and it stuck? I don't want to start a flame war from 2 gens ago, especially because I'm mainly on PC now. Rep that PC, I love it. But please correct my ignorance and explain what makes Xbox Live miles and miles above and beyond, as I've always heard, because I never saw it. Theodore.
Oh, boy. You stepped into a flame war. Look, if we're going to rehash beef from 2 generations ago, let's rehash some beef from 2 generations ago.
We're doing it. We're in it right now. We're in it.
Here's the deal. The bottom line here is, at best, you can say that PlayStation Online was just as good as Xbox Live. And if you believe that, in that case, it's better because it's free, right? That's at best. There is nothing PlayStation Network did better than Xbox Live. What Xbox Live did better was, in my opinion, it felt much more integrated into the entire experience. If you were playing games with your friends on PlayStation 3, and that might, do they have a party chat thing today? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Back in the day, if you were switching games, you were relying on the game for voice chat. So if you were switching to a different game to play, you're switching from Call of Duty to something else, you're playing with your buds, then you gotta like, when you quit the game, you lost voice chat. So there was like, it didn't feel connected in that sense. Then you'd fire up the next game. Maybe that's something that's not important to you. That's fine. But it is something that Xbox Live had and was definitely better. In terms of also voice chat, Xbox Live was generally better for that because every Xbox 360 came with, and the original Xbox, when you bought the Xbox Live kit, you got a headset. So you could basically assume everybody had a headset, whereas a PlayStation 3, maybe they did some bundles where they included Bluetooth headsets, maybe they didn't, and you could use any Bluetooth headset, which was cool, but there was no expectation that everybody had a headset because that was a separate purchase, or it was like a separate thing that you had to acquire. So for that reason, Xbox Live was better. Excuse me. And then we get to the one thing that happened to PlayStation Network, and I think it happened to Xbox Live at some point, but not nearly to this extent. For a solid month in April of 2011, PlayStation Network went down. It straight up didn't work. They got hacked and they had to turn everything off. You couldn't play multiplayer on your PlayStation 3 in April of 2011. You just couldn't. And while Xbox Live has had its reliability issues, it never went down for a whole month straight. So that's kind of hard to argue with. If we're
That's hard.
rehashing beef from 2 gens ago, I mean, this is a decade ago, right? So like, if you want to make the point that PlayStation is just as good today, you're probably right. It also costs money today. So yeah.
Yeah, in
whatever.
retrospect, like now, this doesn't matter. Like we both,
Right,
but
right.
but they're both the same. But this is like Xbox 360 golden age here is what we're talking about, right? Like the
Yeah.
like early 2010s to mid 2010s.
Yeah. So Xbox Live was better. At best, you could say PlayStation Network was the same, but I don't think it was because of things like Party Chat. And I think just the sheer integration of how Xbox Live felt integrated into every aspect of playing on the 360 in a way that PlayStation Network didn't, I think. It just felt better. Whether or not that's worth money to you, if you don't think it's worth the $5 a month or $50 a year or whatever it was in those days, like that's fine. You can make that call. I'm not going to tell you what's worth money and what's not. But if we're looking at the feature set here, Xbox Live was better than PlayStation Network and didn't go down for a straight month.
Also, my favorite thing about Xbox Live when I was in college and a poor college student is I would get the cards for like half price.
Oh, yeah. You never pay full price for Xbox Live.
Yeah, on like early Amazon, like I think I was paying consistently like $20 for a year of Xbox Live. To the point where I was like, how is this even a thing? And they finally did catch on and that you can't really do that anymore. But it was pretty dope while it lasted. They
still do deals all the time for Xbox Live. And now it's all roped in with Game Pass, and it's a whole other thing. They're constantly subsidizing that too.
I think the real point of this whole email that we should really focus on, though, is Theodore also plays on PC now, and we're all just so much happier with Discord and everything.
That's right.
That's really what it comes down to.
And we can all agree that Nintendo sucks at online, and they always have. And they're still 2 or 3 generations behind everybody else.
Oh my gosh. At the height of COVID, when everyone's trying to exchange friend codes to play Animal Crossing together.
Oh my gosh.
For like
friend codes.
The wheels and deals we had to make to get like the best bell prices, or turnip prices to get the most bells. It was just...
Friend codes are like, why? They reinvented something that didn't need to be reinvented, and they just made it worse.
Totally. Completely agree. Like, you should just have a ID that's just your name that you could search like the other two do, or like literally everyone else does. Steam does the same thing, just a name.
Yeah. They sort of tried to couch it in like, well, this is how we're keeping kids safe by making it hard. Like, okay, sure, but not really though, are you? I don't know. Yeah. It was stupid.
This next email is really short, but I want to read it because they bring up a great topic that I think we should talk about. This is from Ethan. It says, "Hey Codex, what do you guys think of doing an episode on the history of leaking and data mining? Maybe touching on the GE Force Now leak. Love your show, Ethan." I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, wouldn't know where to start on that.
I wouldn't know where to start either, but I think it's a great idea, and I'm putting it on the list. I just wanted to let Ethan know we're listening.
Yeah,
we're listening.
This is something we would need to probably reach out to folks who are like involved in this stuff to get the history of them.
Or like interview somebody that knows a lot about it, because I feel completely like I wouldn't know where to start 100%.
Yeah.
So.
And it's happened for, rumors, and like, especially back in the day, it's hard to like draw the line between what's a rumor and what's a leak. And data mining is really interesting too now that you can't have secret things anymore because people just data mine it and they figure it out.
Yeah, I honestly just don't like that people data mine games. As a person that wants to hear like, I just want to be surprised.
Yeah.
Why do you not want to be like, why do you need to know what Bungie or Valve or whoever is going to do like 2 months from now? Just wait, just be patient and live in the now. Live in the now, bruh.
There's plenty of games to play now. We don't need to be looking into the future,
Exactly.
We're on a video game history podcast, so we obviously are.
We have to look at the past. Yeah. So if anything, if you could data mine to the past, you would love that. But it makes no sense, so we wouldn't do it. Okay. You want to read this email from Rob? It says Hot Take Central, and I'm excited.
Ooh, Hot Take Central from Rob. Here, let me pull it up here. Hot Take Central. Okay, hey guys, first off, happy holidays and safe travels. I know this won't be read right away or possibly at all. You're wrong, Rob. We're reading it right now. But I have a few things to talk about here real quick. Number 1, Spider-Man Maximum Carnage for the Genesis/SNES was the best Spider-Man game ever. It seriously played like a Ninja Turtles arcade game, and at the time, the graphics were truly amazing. Not to mention, the story was literally ripped from the comics. And lastly, whether it was on the SNES or Genesis, it had this really cool blood red cartridge. During those times, they didn't really do different colors like that, so it was a really neat thing to get a hold of. I replayed it recently, and honestly, it still holds the test of time.
Dude, I actually remember that red cartridge, and I do remember this game being really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a friend with this game. It's pretty cool. I think it was a 32X game as well on the Genesis. Or maybe there was a 32X version of it too, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2 from Rob here. I am a fellow Destiny lover. I know you guys play on Xbox, but I'd love to run some raids, dungeons, whatever else with you. I'm recently getting back in the swing of things, but I'm a very well-versed and experienced player. I'm capable of playing on PC, Xbox, or PlayStation. We should probably try to get some raids going with
also we play on PC.
Codex. Yeah, we play on PC. Well, it doesn't matter anymore. Anybody can play with anybody.
That's the best part. Yeah, we could just cross-play it up because we were trying to get a raid group together, people playing on PC, and that was really hard. But now that cross-play is a thing, we could totally run VOG together.
Yeah, that would be fun. We should.
We just did. We just ran VOG, and we're guaranteed to have a better experience than the last nights we had.
Yeah,
I would love that, Rob. Let's do it. But I'm gonna make a channel, I think, on the Discord that's like, who wants to play Destiny 2 with Mike and Tyler? Because I would love to do a Codex raid run. We could do fun. VOG. We could do Deepstone Crypt. We could do Last Wish. It'd be really fun.
I'm down. All right, number 3. I know this is getting super lengthy, and I'm sorry about that. I have one more thing to discuss. Don't apologize. It's great. We love your long emails. A few years ago, I was on a podcast called The Beta Testers, and we were supposed to do a crossover episode with you two, but never came to fruition. I'm hoping we can see about working something out still. Let me know. Here's the end. Thank you guys so much for having a rad show, and I'm super happy with how you're growing. Here's to 2022 being awesome. Cheers. Yeah. I'm not opposed to being
we talked about this. Rob and I talked about this, I think, and the problem was we were going to plan it all, and then the world shut down with COVID.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so like that was. I want to say we were emailing about it in like November of 2019. And we're like, well, let's wait till the holidays are over and figure it out. And then it just, so we should definitely do that. I'd be down to do that. Totally.
All right. I'm down to be on other podcasts.
Yeah, me too. I just thought it was super funny. There's other podcasts we're going to be on to talk about a book as well that we need to do as well. But yeah, again, like this whole situation with COVID and everything has really just, it's weird. I'm like a shut-in even though things are online. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how I'm feeling. Like, I'm very social on the internet, but I still am, like, shutting in my house, and I have that feeling. It's really, it's a weird feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but, yeah, so I would be down to do this. I think it would be a great idea. And we can just all do it from our computers, because we all have computers, which is great. So, awesome. Thank you, Rob. It's a great email. This next one's from Ethan. Oh, it's another Ethan email.
Same Ethan.
Same Ethan.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike and Tyler, a question for you guys. It says, pick a sequel, any sequel is the name of the subject line. If you could order for development on a guaranteed good quality sequel to any game, or to have one already in development be released immediately in its finished format, which one would it be? For me, it's Hollow Knight Silksong. Let's answer this before I read the rest of the email. What do you think?
I didn't play Hollow Knight, so I'm assuming that I think Ethan really likes Hollow Knight, so that's probably a great choice. For me, I want a sequel to a few games here. I want a great sequel to Conker's Bad Fur Day. I want a great sequel to the 2009 sleeper hit, but actually wasn't really a hit, game that I love, underrated, called Wet. It was a great third-person shooter. Love that game. I would love a sequel that could just be better than it, because that game had a lot of cool ideas that weren't 100% like executed perfectly, and I would love to just see another shot given at that. In terms of games already in development that I would love to get a kid to just have right now, Spider-Man 2, and I'm assuming Half-Life 3 is in development, so I would love to have Half-Life 3. What about you?
I want Breath of the Wild 2 right now. Obviously, yeah. That's what I want. I want Starfield right now. That's what I want. I also, as far as one that I don't think is in development or anyone has any plans on doing, I want a return to form for Fear. Like, I want a true horror, but still that like John Woo action movie, like from the first game where they're balancing it, because I think if you get the gameplay right, it would be a great game and it would be fun. And I also want it to be linear. I don't want any open world. I just want like straight on through, like an old school, shooter.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
It's about time for a Fear reboot, I think. It's
been
long enough.
So I would say a Fear reboot or a sequel that like is a spiritual successor to the first game is what I would say. I still regret buying the other two Fear games because there's no way I'm going to play them at some point recently, but I'm going to try. So, all right, the next one. P.S. A few episodes I'd love to see. Oh, here we go. History of indie games and game jams. That's a very good one, and I could get some great guests for that probably. Video game soundtracks. Browser and Flash games, and this is just one I want to see as a programmer. I actually would love. I was looking at Flash games as an episode, so that's something I have in mind also. Game engines such as Unity and Unreal Engine, and VR, the first two of which could definitely mention Hollow Knight. So PPS, for your book club format, I'd recommend the Game Console 2.0, and even if you don't use it for that format, it could help you find some consoles for your Forgotten Consoles series.
Ooh.
Play more Hollow Knight. Ethan from Illinois. Thank you, Ethan. I like all those ideas, and I'm going to put them on our list, even though some of them are probably on there already, because that'll remind me to do them. I was looking at browser and Flash games because I remember like Newgrounds, and playing games on Newgrounds as a kid, and I just... Mini clip. Yeah, I love those like browser and Flash games. And I have some friends in the indie video game industry that would definitely be able to come on the show and talk about the history of indie games, I think. So it would be a really fun time. And I'll add the Game Console 2.0 to our book list because I'm making a book list now as well.
Sweet.
Yeah. We will never run out of things to talk about on the show. We've officially decided. Which is great because I was super nervous. I was honestly like when we were starting the show and we finished the first Ultimate History Video Games book, I'm like, what do we do now? Like I was genuinely confused. So I'm glad it worked out. But thank you, Ethan. Great stuff. And yeah, I really want Breath of the Wild 2 right now. Okay. You want to read James's email?
Yeah. James says, subject line here is overrated. James says, hey guys, I love the show. I work overnights and you guys definitely make those long hours fly by. I was wondering if either of you have ever played a game that everyone else loves and thought it was really overrated or just couldn't get into it. Games like Skyrim, The Witcher 3, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla have all been highly recommended to me, and I just found all of them to be underwhelming and impossible to get immersed in the world and universe of those games, considering how much I loved all their predecessors. Much love from Texas, James. I have an answer for this. And it's a hot take I've shared on this podcast many times. The Dark Souls series. I don't like them. They're not fun, and I don't get it.
I love it. That might be our best hot take.
That's my hottest take, I think, is that I just don't like Dark Souls, and I can't get into it. And I've tried several times because people love those games, and I just can't.
And you tried with the Jedi Fallen Order for me. You did it for me because I told you how great it was, and then you fought the frog boss in the first mission, which they don't tell you shouldn't fight, which I think is baloney. I agree with you. It's absolute baloney because they make you think it's like Ogo Bogo or is his name or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Giant killer frog wrecks Jedis. Not fun. It's
yeah,
fact.
and the whole so the Star Wars aesthetic. I thought, okay, look, if this gameplay is really something that I can get into, then maybe I just can't get into the aesthetic of Dark Souls games. And like if I play a Star Wars Dark Souls, like I love Star Wars, that might help me get over it, and it didn't. But I don't like the stopping at a campfire thing and then everything respawns again and like. So you have to just fight the same stuff you've fought over and over, and they're just really difficult and like lots of timing things with like reaction time. I don't know.
It's definitely a game that makes you like sweat. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it makes you sweat on even the trash encounters, and I don't like it. It's not. I don't find it to be fun.
I completely agree with you. It's not for everybody. And when I played it, like I had my YouTube tour guide. That's how I played it, and then I realized I'm just playing through this, and it just like not the way it was intended. And I kind of just fell off of it. I need to get back into it because I do enjoy the combat. And I like that kind of combat, I'm realizing, especially after Fallen Order, like going through Jedi Fallen Order and just loving it. Mm-hmm. I need to get back into Dark Souls again. And the problem now is there's so many games like it. There's so many. Oh, it's too many games. Regarding the ones that you mentioned, James, Skyrim, I love. So I would disagree with you there because but I'm also really into that kind of game. I love it. Assassin's Creed games I do agree with you that they're overrated because I've been burned before. Like they get really repetitive, I feel like, Assassin's Creed. And so now I can't get into them because I don't want to go to do a fun Ubisoft find the tower and find all the collectibles after you find the tower. I'm just not into that anymore. The Witcher 3, Tyler, that's what you've been playing. I started playing it.
All right. Again. And are you into it this time?
I'm into it. I'm really into it. I'll talk about it more later, but I have started playing The Witcher 3 again. For Mike and Philly, he cannot hate us anymore because I am playing it, and I'll just say I get it, and I'll leave it at that, and I'll talk about it more after the show, after we do the emails, like after this segment. So
once we get into what you've been playing.
But overrated games, man, I can't get into fighting games. I've really tried. Like I know like the new Mortal Kombat was supposed to be great, but it's just not something I can get into.
I can't do it either.
And also even to the extent like I got Smash Brothers because I loved the N64 Smash Brothers and I just never play it. Like I played it with our Codex listeners on Discord and it was super fun, but that's the only time I really played it because it just doesn't do it for me anymore. And I don't know why, because I loved that game, but I think just fighting games for me are just become overrated for me. And I know I'm wrong. That's the problem. I know I'm wrong. It's just for me personally, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm just not into it either. They're too, I guess I have, it's like the sweatiness factor, which I mean, I've sweat in games before. Like I like League of Legends and I like sweating in harder Destiny content, but I don't know. There's something about fighting games and Dark Souls that I just can't do.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's some we both get. We have a hard time. So thank you, James. That's a great email though, and I find them to be very underwhelming and impossible to get immersed into the world and universe. That's what James says on there. I was that feeling about The Witcher. And then after watching the show and then kind of like not feeling overwhelmed when I went into it this time, it made it a lot more sense to me. And I think that's what helped me out. If you like, I don't think James wants to get into these overrated games. I think James is over them. But if you were trying to, if you're a person that wanted to get into a game you thought was overrated, I recommend like watching some videos, because that helped me with Witcher to understand what's going on, like lore videos, because the lore in The Witcher is very daunting as well. I just made a bunch of dialogue choices that are probably going to screw everything up, and I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, so we'll talk about it more later. Okay, thank you, James, for that email. Ethan's got another email that we got to talk about.
MVP, Ethan. So Ethan says, "Hey, Mike and Tyler, love your podcast. It's one of my favorite pastimes, and the best way for me to just shut out the world when I'm sick of people and hearing the music at the start of an episode is like a calming drug for me. A few episode ideas as well as a question. Games or otherwise, what are your top 3 things you're excited to come out in 2022? Mine are Hollow Knight, Silksong, Breath of the Wild 2, and Stranger Things Season 4. For episode ideas, I would love to see a series of episodes on notable indie games and their developers' history. For the actual games, I nominate Inhales, Hollow Knight, Cuphead, Undertale, Overcooked, Phasmophobia, Friday Night Funkin', Poppy Playtime, Stardew Valley, passes out. That's my Ethan impression.
That was a really good
Hollow
impression.
Knight, Ethan from Illinois.
Illinois. I love because we're doing this email episode and Ethan sent so many emails. It's like a Hollow Knight propaganda, and I love it. I mean,
just subliminal messaging. Everybody needs to play Hollow Knight.
I need to play Hollow Knight. I know I do. It's
Me too.
It's on the list. I need to play it. My top 3. Do you want me to go first for my top 3 of 2022?
Yeah, geez, I need to think.
Okay, Breath of the Wild 2 is definitely on mine as well. Starfield is on mine, if that comes out in 2022. And also, as far as like kind of a personal one that I'm really excited for the Advance Wars Reboot Camp that comes out in spring, because I loved that game as a kid and I'm super stoked for it. What about you, Tyler?
Breath of the Wild 2. I'm pretty stoked for Pokemon Arceus. The Origins one. I'll check that out, I think. And I don't know. I'm so jaded by getting excited for video games that I purposely like don't get excited for things very often. And then I just prefer to be pleasantly surprised. So I don't look too far ahead to see what's coming out. I don't think Spider-Man 2 is supposed to come out this year. I think it comes out next year. So otherwise I'd be really excited for that.
I should mention also, speaking of the hype that you talked about, I didn't get hyped, going back to Will's email, for Cyberpunk. And I think that helped me.
Yeah.
That helped me out a lot because it turned out really bumming people out. And so I'm glad. I'm glad I didn't get too stoked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I can't really think of anything else I'm like super stoked for. I'm sure it'll come to me. I'm sure there's stuff that comes out that I'm excited for. I do want to check out Horizon Forbidden West. I didn't play the first one or the recent God of War like semi reboot. I didn't play that either, but I'm kind of excited for the new one. I should play those.
Yeah. As far as the games he nominated also, I've never played Cuphead, which I feel like a fool. Hollow Knight, I should have played. Undertale I've played, didn't beat, but I've played and I enjoyed it. Overcooked, great game. Phasmophobia, I've wanted to play, but I need friends that don't get scared. And Tyler and I both get scared. Yep, we both get scared, so we can't play together, which is it's a bummer. And then Stardew Valley, I have played. I just haven't gotten sucked in because I know I'd fall into it.
Yeah,
it's one of those games where it's going to take over my life, like Animal Crossing did, and I can't do that right now because Witcher's currently taking over my life. So that's good though. Thank you, Ethan. All right, this next one's kind of a gag email, and I liked it. This says Halo Infinite is the subject line. Found a fellow Codex fan in the wild. Happy New Year, Tommy from Pomfret, Connecticut. And then it's a list of like Halo Infinite, like a scoreboard, and one of the names on it is Jaybird. Like X
with a Y.
With a Y, Jaybird X.
Love it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tommy, for looking out that we have fans playing Halo. That would probably destroy me in Halo. I'm so bad at Halo. Okay. This next one's from Mo, our dear friend Mo.
This is our last one.
This is our last email, and then we have 2 Discord questions.
Oh, okay.
So, random Wiimote factoid. Hey, dudes, it's Mo. Hope you had a great Christmas and New Year's. I enjoyed your coverage on the Wii in your recent episode. I noticed that you used the term Wiimote instead of Wii Remote. Of course, everyone says Wiimote because it's such a great play on words, but I recently learned that Nintendo never used the term Wiimote in their marketing or in their official manuals.
That's true.
It's always 2 words, Wii Remote. The reason for this is because another company had already trademarked the name Wiimote with 2 E's instead of 2 I's. It's a small TV remote for kids. I'm not sure how Wiimote became so commonly used for Nintendo product, but it definitely didn't come from Nintendo. Officially, it's now become a bit of a Mandela effect, as a lot of people assume Wiimote was just another one of Nintendo's genius marketing ideas. I imagine they probably knew that people would say Wiimote anyway, in spite of their compliance with trademark limitations. Spiter toot cannons. No. That is very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. It's like a one of those things that I see it every time I see Wiimote. I want to be like Wii Remote, but it's like one of those things that when you correct somebody, it's like you're just sort of like, why correct somebody? It's like, but I know it's like when somebody writes Spider-Man and doesn't put a hyphen in it, you're like, that's wrong. But like, you can't just go around correcting people every time they write Spider-Man wrong.
Like me on our episode.
Yeah, well, you can, and I've definitely done it, but sometimes there's a time and place, right? You can't do it every single time. So that's the same with Wiimote.
You come here on the day of my wedding, Tyler, to tell me that I put Spider-Man without a hyphen in between it.
It's a Spider-Man themed wedding, Mike. You had a Spider-Man themed wedding and you didn't hyphenate it. That was a problem, and we needed to talk about it.
I kissed my wife upside down. It was really crazy. Oh man, that would be a great idea. Actually, that's
a great idea for a wedding. Yeah.
Okay, that's all our emails. Thank you, Mo. That is a true fact, and I think it is a Mandela effect that I just call it a Wiimote, and I just have called it that my whole life, and I thought I was right, and I'm wrong. So that's good. You learn something new every day. Here are 2 questions from your Discord. The first one's from Dave. It is, what video game character or characters would be most likely to make New Year's resolutions and adhere to them? And my answers were Master Chief and Doom Guy because they never give up. Ever.
Yeah.
That's mine.
That's a good call. Yeah, I don't really have anything. This is like you're diving into the psyche of video game characters in a way that we don't have very many. I'd have to think more on that. So I'm sorry.
I would say Mario also. And then he asked who would make New Year's resolutions and instantly fail them. And
Wario.
I think Wario would, but Luigi, like where does Luigi fall in this? Because Luigi, I want to say he doesn't give up, but I feel like he's kind of a space cadet a little bit. Luigi.
I don't think
we love him for it.
I don't think he makes New Year's resolutions because he's afraid of failing them.
And he's the life of the party. I love Luigi. I should say that.
I do. I love him too, but I think he's got a little bit of an inferiority complex.
We really, I think you're right there. So to make New Year's resolutions and instantly fail them, though, we put Crash Bandicoot, Tyler and I.
Yeah, absolutely.
That guy would just be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then he just wouldn't because he's Crash Bandicoot. And I love it. Would Ratchet and Clank follow New Year's resolutions?
I think Ratchet would make them and make an earnest attempt to follow them, but I think he would eventually crumble like 2 or 3 months in.
That's good.
Clank, I think if he did make a New Year's resolution, I think he would stick to it. He's a robot, but I don't know if he would make a New Year's resolution.
I bet you, if we were talking about Minecraft Steve, he would make a New Year's resolution and then he'd get to it 400 hours later.
Yep.
That's my guess.
After digging a hole to the center.
After digging a hole to the center of the earth, yeah, for sure. And then finding out. You never dig down, Tyler. You never do that. But
oh.
All right. This next question is from Thrak. Which of the big 3, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, are you most excited for in 2022? This is a great question. I'm going to run through. This was my reasoning behind it. And I'm going to say who I think actually I'm excited for at the end. Microsoft, I wrote down because I'm super excited for Starfield, even though I don't think it's going to come out in 2022. I'm being a negative Nancy here. I don't think, a pessimistic Peter, if you will. I don't think it's going to come out in 2022. And I say that also about Breath of the Wild too, because with the whole like supply chain and everything going on right now, it doesn't seem like it's getting better. I hope it does, but yeah, we'll see. And like people working from home again and all that stuff. I'm also excited for Microsoft to see what other crazy acquisitions they might try to make, because Bethesda was the big surprise of 2021, and they can't be the only one. The other thing I forgot to write down here is they have a quote unquote quadruple A game that we all know now is going to be Perfect Dark, whatever that is.
Quadruple A.
But that's not going to come out in 2022, but I'm just excited for news about it because I don't know anything about it. And I love Perfect Dark, the original for 64. So that's a thing. Also, they have cloud gaming and Game Pass. So they have a lot of things going for them. They have a lot of weird irons in the fire. And I'm curious to see how they turn out in 2022. Specifically cloud gaming. Because I feel like they started pushing it now. But my internet can't do it. Have you been able to do cloud gaming stuff with Microsoft xCloud?
xCloud has been, so I've been testing it out across a lot of different things on my home internet and on like cell phone internet now, because I have an unlimited data plan finally, and I'm like, yes, what uses tons of bandwidth? Stadia and xCloud. Stadia I have found to be extremely playable, like surprisingly so. I thought it would be bad. I thought game streaming would be a thing that could never ever work for like physical speed of light reasons. I don't think that as much anymore. I have had a very good experience with Stadia on both cell phone internet, like 5G, and my home Wi-Fi. It doesn't require a lot of bandwidth. It just requires like a reliable connection, like a steady connection, because video is not actually that demanding. It's just it needs to, if there's any interruptions in it, you're gonna have a bad time. So Stadia has been really good. xCloud has been not good. It's been laggy, and it's been even when it's working perfectly without visual glitches or anything, it's like I press a button on my controller and the thing happens too late for it to be playable, and that's really frustrating. And then GeForce Now I have found to be a middle between Stadia, which there are times I play on Stadia and you could have told me, no, this is being rendered directly on your phone, and I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. And then xCloud is mostly unplayable. GeForce Now is like right in the middle, where it's decently playable most of the time, but sometimes it's just a little bit laggier than Stadia. So that's been my cloud gaming
experience
thing. But with Stadia being so good, lets me know that like this is actually kind of doable, I think. And so I'd love to see xCloud do better, mostly because when I play Destiny on Stadia, I don't have any of the expansions there, and that is frustrating because I can't really do much there. I usually do it to like check inventories and stuff like that. But xCloud, Game Pass has, at least at this moment, has all the Destiny expansions. So I would prefer to play it on Game Pass because that would be great. But because I would be able to actually do other stuff. But yeah, and then GeForce Now, that works okay too. I actually should use GeForce Now a little bit more often. It has some problems. The free version of GeForce Now has some like, you need to wait for like a machine to become available for you. And like sometimes that can take like 5, 10, 15 minutes to wait for a machine to become available, which is like kind of frustrating. And you can pay the subscription fee and it's probably worth it to sort of jump the line there. But I haven't found it to be useful enough to want to pay a subscription for it yet. So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm actually going to call my ISP soon because I want to get faster internet and I'm willing to pay for it. So hopefully I can experiment with this. Because yeah, like you said, I remember, so we had a friend that was trying to pick up a Destiny gun and you mentioned Stadia, and I was surprised because I feel like me, and I hope I don't think I'm the only one that says this, think Stadia is dead just because I haven't heard any news about it. Like the hype machine's kind of over with that.
Yeah, I think it is. Google shut down their like game development things that was going to make games for Stadia. And I'm kind of frustrated by that because I do think that that technology, because you have access to like, it doesn't have to be just a computer on the other end. It's a whole server mainframe, right? Like you could do all kinds of things that are just straight up not possible on a home console right now. And you could do them through Stadia, I think. And like, that would be really cool to like try to find that type of game that like literally can't be done elsewhere. And the fact that they've closed their game studio makes me think they're like, oh, they just want it to be a game store where you can play games. Like that's fine too, but it's a little bit less exciting.
Yeah, I remember them in PAX 2019 having a giant space on the floor where you could play Stadia on all these different devices. They had like an iPhone and an Android phone that you could just play it on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is the future. Here we go. And now which is weird because you'd think during COVID times, like 2020, that would have been when Stadia shined. You know, just everyone being at home and wanting to play new games, but not being able to or a supply chain shortage, like not having new access to new hardware. Stadia is kind of the answer to that. And they just didn't happen. But all right. So that was Microsoft. For Nintendo, what we have, this is the list of things I thought of that are coming out. If you have more to add, Tyler, let me know. But we have Breath of the Wild 2, once again, if it comes out. I'm being a pessimistic Peter here. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. That's something I'm hyped for. And Pokemon Arceus.
Arceus, I think?
I think it's Arceus. Are there any other Nintendo games I'm missing on this list? There's got to be.
Metroid Prime 4 is still in development, right? I don't think it's a 2022
Yeah,
game,
I don't think it's 2022. But so you have your typical Nintendo exclusives that everyone's amped for, specifically Breath of the Wild 2, because it's huge. Sony-wise, we had the new Horizon game. That's a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. And then God of War 5. What other Sony games are there to be hyped about? There's got to be other ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It just seems like a light year, but this, because I was thinking about the new franchises. Okay, Last of Us 2, that just came out, so there's not going to do any Last of Us, maybe like DLCs for it, maybe.
Maybe, and probably not.
Uncharted, there's nothing really new coming out. Well, they have Uncharted coming out on PC, you said, right? That comes out this
and
year.
PlayStation 5, Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy are coming to PS5. And
I mean, Sony finally releasing titles to PC is kind of big news for Sony. That's really big. So that's kind of the thing to be hyped about with Sony, actually embracing the PC market.
I like that. And I think their strategy now is to like re-release these sort of 2, 3, 4-year-old games on PC right before the sequel comes out on PS5 to be like, okay, we'll sell this game again. We'll get a whole bunch of PC players to buy the new God of War or whatever, and they'll play it and they'll love it. And then they won't want to wait for the new one. They'll have to buy a PlayStation 5 and the new God of War. And I think that's a good strategy. And I'm down with it. I wish the games were a little bit cheaper because they're still like $50-$60. Horizon Zero Dawn has gone on sale several times and I've been tempted to pick it up, but I want to wait till it's $10. Nice.
Yeah. I actually ended up getting Witcher 3 for $11 on Steam. That's what I'm thinking like the way it could work on me because I'm going to buy Uncharted for PC. Is it a collection of the 3 games? Is that what it is?
I think it's just 4 and Lost Legacy. I don't think it's the original trilogy.
I was hoping it was
super
the original
bummer,
trilogy. Yeah. Well, I'm probably going to get 4 because I've never played it. So, I mean, it might work on me. Who knows, Sony? Yeah. So that's kind of the big news. So out of those 3, I think Microsoft has the most things going for it. But if Microsoft doesn't release Starfield next year, that's going to be a big oh no for me. So I think I'm going to go with these Nintendo exclusives because Nintendo is pretty dependable, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I think for me, what I'm most excited for in 2022 is going to be Breath of the Wild 2, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, and Pokemon Arceus. Because Pokemon Arceus is the Pokemon game that all of us wanted. When that guy made that bootleg Pokemon game that got shut down, where it was like a third person, you'd throw the Pokeball, that's what Pokemon Arceus is.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I love that. I actually wanted to do a mini episode on that because I found that whole experience hilarious because I did watch it and play. I tried to play it. I couldn't get it. Didn't work on my computer, but I was like, it's so funny that this guy made a bootleg Pokemon game that was the Pokemon game everyone wanted. And now we're getting that as a real game from Nintendo.
I hope they hired him and got him to work on it.
I hope so because it was cool looking. I mean,
yeah,
I think I'm going to write that on there as an episode for me to do for fun because there's a couple games that I selfishly want to do episodes on that would probably be like mini episodes, like 20 minutes long because there's not a lot of coverage on them. And that could be one I talk about. But what about you, Tyler? What are the 3 of the big 3? Which one are you most excited for?
Most excited for Microsoft because I think I just love what they're doing with the Game Pass ecosystem. I love the acquisitions that they're making. I love the meta strategy that goes on there. There aren't any really specific games that I'm looking forward to next year from any of these really, except for the ones that we've kind of already talked about, like Breath of the Wild and Starfield and stuff. But I just love what Microsoft has been doing for gaming. And I think being extremely consumer friendly with things like Game Pass and stuff like that is, I think that's very interesting to me. And I just want to see what they do next year too.
Okay, here comes some speculation time. You ready? Do you think Nintendo and Sony will ever release their own style of Game Pass?
I think Sony will at some point. They kind of have it a little bit. Like a lot of their games are free on PlayStation Plus. If you're a subscription, like a lot, like I think Horizon Zero Dawn's on there, like the old God of War's on there, like a lot of the bigger games that like Microsoft would put on Game Pass if they were their games are kind of free already. But they're not doing the like day one thing where like the game like Halo came out and was on Game Pass immediately. I think if Microsoft continues being successful with Game Pass, that Sony will have to do something like that. Nintendo's off in their own world. They'll never do that. I don't think. They kind of do it with the retro game stuff with like Nintendo 64 and Super Nintendo, like with their Nintendo subscription, but it's not the same. And I don't think they'll do it for new games.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you that Nintendo is off in their own world, but they've also been so successful. Like so many people debate Microsoft versus Sony when Nintendo's just been this sales like juggernaut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not even in the conversation because those two can't compete with what Nintendo's doing because Nintendo's doing something completely different, which I love.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Apple makes more money than all of them combined on gaming.
Oh, here we go. I'm into it. Why wasn't Why isn't it at the big four? Tyler's angry. Here we go.
Apple Arcade is cool. They don't do a good job of like hyping the games that are on there, and they don't really like. I would love to see them get like some sort of killer app to be like, yeah, and it's only on Apple Arcade, but like they don't care. They just sit back and collect the 30% of every microtransaction that happens on iOS, and they make a lot of money from that, specifically from gaming, way more than anybody else. And they're not even in this conversation. So
nice. Hey, you know that we've talked about it before, but I love your Apple takes on gaming because it's true. I'm excited about it, and I didn't get the Apple TV like I wanted to this year to play Apple Arcade on it on my on my TV, but it could happen some year, you know, because it's only like $5 a month, right? And they're games like Oceanhorn's a legit like Zelda kind of game.
It's a sweet game, yeah, and they don't have like microtransactions, so they're not encumbered by the thing. Like when people think of it's a mobile game, that means it's free, and I'm gonna have to pay to progress or like pay to win or whatever. Apple Arcade games do not have microtransactions, so they are just full complete games on their own. Some of them are re-releases of games that did have microtransactions in them, and they're not updated very well because of that to like function without microtransactions. So like not everything is great, but a lot of it is.
Nice. There's also a game I forgot to mention that's been like kind of in the Microsoft like talk for a long time called Tunic. Have you heard of this? That's supposed to come out this coming year. That's like a indie Zelda. You're like a little fox, and you like it's kind of like cel shaded Zelda. Yeah, and I'm not hyped for it because I'm trying not to get hyped for games anymore, but I'm excited that it's coming out on Game Pass at least. I could give it a try, you know?
Yeah.
Win or lose, I'll give it a try. So cool. All right. Well, that's the emails and stuff, but let's do a quick what you've been playing, Tyler. So what have you been playing this week?
Destiny 2. I just got back from being on vacation at my parents' house, so I didn't have access to all my games. But Destiny 2, been playing since I got back. Still making my way through Ruined King. I'm about halfway through that. I am loving Ruined King. It has a little bit of the Dark Souls stuff that I don't like of like when you rest at a rest point, you heal up, but like everything respawns. But I like the battle system in it. So it doesn't bother me that much. I'm also playing on a little bit harder difficulty, so every time I like get frustrated with how difficult it is, I'm like, this game's too hard. I'm like, well, I should turn the difficulty down because I am not playing on the easiest mode. So, but then I don't, because when I go to switch it down, it's like, you won't get the achievement for playing it on the legendary difficulty mode. I'm not playing on the hardest one, but like the next hardest one. And so that scares me away from switching it down to normal when I get frustrated. So, yeah, having fun with that. And Halo, still working on Halo a little bit. I need to jump in and just finish it because it's actually not that long, huh?
It's really not. Because so that was mine. I just finished Halo's main campaign story this week, and it's not that long. But completely agree with what you just said about Ruined King, because I played Halo on Heroic, and I was getting mad at how hard it was. And I'm like, this is entirely my fault. This is me making it harder.
You can just turn it down.
But I wanted that 30 extra gamer score, and I got it. Okay, I beat it on Heroic, and I feel alive. But that was my game I beat. Really fun. Dug that. Excited to see if they do more like story DLC with it, which is what they're kind of talking about. Ooh. That Infinite is infinite because we might not get like a Halo 7 for a while. We might get just more like DLC story content about what's going on is it Zeta Halo is the ring you're on.
That's cool.
So I think that's kind of cool. The other game I started playing this week because I beat Halo and I also beat Breath of the Wild. Ooh, I beat both of those. Not Breath of the Wild. Actually, I beat Skyward Sword HD.
Oh, yeah.
We've been talking so much about Breath of the Wild, I got confused. Talking about, I beat Skyward Sword HD while I was visiting my father in Texas, and I also beat Halo when I came back, but I started playing Wargroove finally while I was on vacation in Texas visiting my dad, and Wargroove is like Advanced Wars. But it's medieval fighting, and oh my gosh, it's so much harder. I don't know if I'm bad at video games or if I was just really good at Advanced Wars, but Wargroove is really hard. Like I am like there's like you can get 3 stars if you do well in the mission. I've consistently gotten like a D and 1 star on like all the main story missions except for the first 2. Yeah, I'm like, am I just bad at video games? But it's a very different system because in Advanced Wars, you would do your power and it would like affect the whole map. And in Wargroove, you do your special commander power and it affects like a small zone near your commander. And if your commander dies in battle, then you're just done. And
if you die in the game, you die in real life?
Yeah, a lot of times I die, my commander dies because I'm having them fight because they're really good. Like they destroy infantry units really quickly, but then they get overwhelmed and swarmed and then I die and I fail. So it's a hard game, but I'm playing through it and I'm enjoying it. And of course, as I said before, I started The Witcher 3. That's the one I'm playing like when I'm at home. And I think my mindset has changed about like, as I was not in the right mindset to play Witcher 3 when I tried to play it like 6 months ago on Xbox when it was like on Game Pass for a bit. It's no longer on Game Pass.
Oh, rest in peace.
PC is the way to go as far as the look of the game goes. And also I'm playing on a controller on my PC and it's making the game feel a lot less daunting. And also I'm just straight up watched beginner's guides to kind of not feel so lost. And that really helped. And if someone would have told me this is essentially medieval Batman Arkham Asylum, where you're like being a detective and finding the monster and prepping to fight the monster and doing all these tools, I would have been so into it. But now that I know that, I am super into it. So it's great.
Oh man, I love Arkham Asylum. Well, I didn't like Arkham Asylum as much as I did Arkham City and Origins. I really got into those.
Yeah, Arkham City was the one I got into because I watched my friend play all of Arkham Asylum, so I kind of had the story spoiled for me a bit. But yeah, I really like The Witcher, and I watched the TV show also, which helped hype me up for it. I'm sure that helped with game sales. I'm not the only one. But I really enjoy it, and I get it now, Mike from Philly. So please don't be mad at us anymore. Now, when will I beat it? Who knows? It's a very long game. But I'm going to keep playing it. And I've been playing Destiny with you also. Still chasing that Vex Mythoclast. When are we going to get it? We're
just grinding out Vault of Glass.
Meanwhile, our friend gets it on the first try.
Gosh.
So upsetting. So upsetting. All right. Well, that's it for the show this week. We'll be back to our normal shenanigans next week, and we'll go through the Ultimate History Video Games Volume 2. We're officially done with our little vacation section, so we can go back to it. And if you want to send us an email, you can send us an email to codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet at Tyler at SneakerElf, ELPH on Twitter. You can tweet at me at Mecoletta, MECOLETTA. And if you tweet at me and you're looking for a Discord link, there's one pinned to my Twitter profile that you can click on and get a link and a free invite to the Discord. Otherwise, you can just email me. And also, you don't need to own a Twitter to look at my profile. You can just look at my profile, click on the link, and then get it that way. Some people asked that a couple months ago, and I was like, oh yeah, you don't have to do that. You can just click on you don't have to join Twitter or anything. Just go to my profile and click on it to get the Discord link. We're talking about food a lot in there and tabletop gaming. It's fun. I'm into it. So that's the episode this week. Tyler.
All right.
Do you want to say bye to everyone?
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.
This has been a Podaholics Comedy Network presentation. Podaholics.com